guess to start, right, something I thought I'd show you guys is kind of how my alt came along. So one thing that came to mind is I got not one but two legendary chant jewels in the span of like a week so far. I have plus 12 Astromets now, and I actually got more than halfway on the mains. Now I'm at a point where I can't really go any further, at least for now. But that's where we're at. And I don't know, man. It's not too bad, but the drop rates are definitely doing us a disservice. I feel like sometimes where like 1,000 will get you like little to nothing, and then other times you'll get like something, right? Of course, 1,000 will get you. Hold up, I need to like straight up change the title of the stream. God damn it! Hold on, man. I'm trying my best here. Gonna be mostly an overview slash Q&A, whatever it may be. I'm not gonna get too crazy here with the. Anyway, so aside from that, though, right? One of the things that I thought I'd touch on a little bit here is just, as far as the gear goes, I've basically got that accessory up quite a ways, which I think is, it's a plus, right? But one of the things that I thought I'd kind of touch on a little bit is, hold on, I'm like popping up chat, so just like, just a second. Having to like micromanage my stream before I even get the stream started. My God. Anyways, so pretty much, I thought I'd go ahead and show what I've changed. So, for one thing, right, I am planning on building some troops on this account, right? We're at 2.4-ish, roughly. That'll be the next things. We'll rebuild some T4s and stuff like that, and make it 3 mil across instead of 2.4. My main account, as you guys may have seen from last stream, is now 2 billion might. Which again, the gear on my main account is not as good now, in some ways, my mix set that I've got on here. Now I don't know. I feel like I'll get my cup here eventually. It just takes forever to do cups. That's the only thing I hate about gear in this game. Like stat wise, between the faith and the cup and the faith are going to be some of the most difficult to work on. But given what I've already done to it, right? If you look at my mix stats on here, and I just auto config. Okay, mind you, I also got Divine Fire maxed out. Okay, so now we have a 9% reduction. Plus, and even though I don't know why it does that, this is what I'm actually running. Is I'm going to be doing a 60-60. Obviously, this lead combination's all sorts of screwed because I don't actually use Chronicler for a lead, but the main thing is stat wise. So it's 545, 510, and then my cab is kind of low, right? So that's like the first thing that I noticed right at the bat is I probably need to work on that a little bit. Cab stats just a little bit low for me at my taking. Now attack wise, we're doing pretty good here. HP wise, we're still could use some more work, right? We probably need to get closer to 300, I think. Because the closer you are to those kind of numbers, or even maybe 300 or 400, the better. It's like getting there. That's kind of the tough part. And I honestly don't know. It's like, I genuinely don't know if we'll be able to actually achieve this or not. But I did start to do some of the Astra on the Blight rig, which, as you can tell, I kind of need a little bit more to like work through it. But I figure that's going to give us at least another 9%. But before I do the Astra on the Blight Ring, and then do the Astra for these other pieces, I'm trying to finish the Champ strides, and that's even more painful. But, I think it's all well worth it in terms of what you gain from it. It's just 2 to 3%, but it works, it's work its ways into a pretty good spot, I think, eventually. Eventually, once I get another Champ dual legendary, if I do, then that's, logically that's where the next slot's going to go. And then from that point forward, I don't know if I'll bother doing. I guess if I get more champ jewels, I might start taking out like inf jewels and put champ jewels in there instead. But honestly, I don't know. I mean, I may roll with a little bit more inf in range, and I'll worry about the cav as much. But I don't know. I mean, it's really kind of temporal in a way. Now, with the 1.2 million gems you see there, right? That's I don't know. I'm gonna see how many gems I get over a period of a month. I'm just like gonna tell myself, okay, don't burn your gems. Just let that number stack, and watch all the people drill. You know, because I've had my fair share of gems in this game, but I also don't like save them very often. I burn them almost all the time. So anyway, so I'm working on this, and this is obviously painful. It takes forever, but I mean, you know, it's 15% when it's done. So, and it works out. Now, I guess I should point out that I could also start working on Chronicler's some too, but Chronicler's kind of like one of those heroes that, I mean, I'd like to finish, but it's more expensive for me to do so. I don't know if there's enough gain from it when I'm already at like 46% right now. I mean, it's 10 or 20%, I guess, but it's just not enough for me to like argue for or in favor of it, I guess. It's just one of those things. Now, artifacts wise, I mean, we're still a long ways away before we can even like. So I got like 11, and I need like 80 to even upgrade. So it's like it's a little bit. How do you say? It's very difficult to like work on these in any meaningful way, especially to get them maxed out. But yeah, I'm almost where I might be able to get one of my meteor watches or hourglasses, depending on how that goes. Not really sure. I could also do the eternal gaze if I wanted to, which might work on the cav damage a bit. That'll bring it up a percent. But again, it's one of those things that, much like the sandstone, it's just eh. If I can work on it, cool. If not, not a big deal. Because there's really not a lot there for me right now. Trying to upgrade these is painful enough as it is. Artifacts are pretty crummy in that regard. But one thing I did want to kind of touch on today was a little bit of both, you know, in general, just Coliseum. So your teams wise, my alt is hacking a really shitty team most of the time. But let's try doing this team. Trying to think. Okay, so you got backline, somebody that kills your healer. Maybe if I take that out and do, I don't know, you do Oathkeeper, and then see their team doesn't have a healer either, so I have to either try to beat them at their own game. Maybe I go Scarlet, and then try that. Maybe I don't know. It's worth a try, I guess, but I don't know if it's gonna pan out. It very well might not. In which case, I mean, it's not like the worst thing in the world, I guess, but look like that's gonna work. Okay, so see, if I see a Boommaster, I just ignore it. I don't like Boommaster. So how about instead of trying to do it that way, let's try and do, I don't know, like I could go Demon Slayer, but then instead of Oathkeeper, go Shadow Light. Try that maybe. If I get a different answer. No. Still the same thing. It's just the problem being is I don't have a healer that can withstand a Demon Slayer. The best I can do right now is probably just take the guards and work my way down. But hero-wise, at least in Kala, this always struggles. I need like I need some pay-to-win heroes. That's what I need. But yeah. So like, and be honest, like this is really how I do any of the Dead Kingdoms and stuff like that. It's just like if you're in a new kingdom, this is not going to apply as much. But like if you're in the old kingdoms and open kingdoms, even I really is what I'm referring to, right? You just go down, and when you first get in there, the first thing you do is just take the guards all the way to the bottom. Because you don't really tend to win most of the time when you try to go up against other players, especially if you don't have like a really decent stacked team. You're gonna struggle almost all the way through. Okay, so let me bring this over here, and then I'll turn up. That way we don't have. I need to like copy that too. I'll like do myself a favor. Can I like straight up copy this? I just gotta do it. There it is. Okay, where? Oh wait, here it is. Okay, copy. Yeah, and then you move for a second. Back that in. There you go. That way, regardless of which one I really want. Or like, jamming to music. We're not like bored. Although it probably could go down a little bit, I'd imagine. Maybe not that low, but like, maybe around there. Yeah. Yeah, that'll do it. Okay, so. Anyway. Hey, what's up, you ducks? What's up? Hello, hello. So we're gonna do a little bit more Coliseum. This time on my main though. So let's see here. I gotta get to rank 1 again, so need to like kick some ass. Well, I don't know. I mean, I might still be able to cherry pick this team. I don't know. Not sure if it'll work. It might. Just curious, really, if anything. Okay, I didn't think so, but you know. Okay, so let's get a little bit more like pay to win or the win. I could shoot and do something like that, maybe. Got any advice for Astrolite? You know, if you haven't seen Sparty's videos, you should look up a video that he did on the Astrolite cost for spreadsheets that he's got. And normally I'd be like, you know, yeah, check out what I got, right? Because you would think I'd have something like that. Honestly, he is the only guy that I know of on the entire website that has actually got a really handy guide that'll tell you exactly what the cost is associated to the Astrolite, even as you roll through it. You know, so it'll give you a really full picture as what you're going to pay for. Now, as to how you go about, you know, doing one piece or doing them evenly, I'm of the opinion that you oftentimes are going to settle on one piece at a time than you are to do it evenly. You know, it's like depending on what type of gear pieces that is. You know, so like for example, all right, if I was to do drums for my cav set, I would do my drums one at a time, because the cost of Astrolite for drums is really not that bad. It's really easy to do, right? But if, let's say, you know, you start doing Astrolite for something that is like Bumblehelm, you're going to notice that the cost in Astrolite skyrockets. And this is because the stat bonuses that you're getting in here is pretty significant, right? I mean, the thing about it is if you start doing Astrolite evenly, this makes sense when you've only got like maybe level 3, level 4, right? And if you're just doing level 3s and level 4s, you're only going to see maybe an increase of about 1 or 2% across the board, right? But let's say it's going to cost you 50 Astrolite per piece to get there. So for about 150 Astrolite, you've increased your stats for about 3%. Whereas if you were to have dumped that all into one piece of gear, you're going to find that the stats end up being a lot higher. You know, so it's like when I say this like full-heartedly though, because you also have the, you know, the chance of what happens if I don't roll a full 50 or full 100% rather. You know, like you can get away with it, sure. I've seen where people will drop like 100 Astrolite on something, and they get lucky on something that was worth like 200 Astrolite. Right? I mean, it's not like the game is designed in such a way that you're like stonewalled into one full front-up cost, right? But it's also a risk. And you could be out all 100 if you risk 100, you know, say on a 200 roll. You might lose the full 100, and then you're out 100 Astrolite. So it's like, it's a little mind-boggling, but I honestly, whether you jamble it, as they say, that's the joy of playing a pay-to-win Lords mobile game, I guess, right? Oh, yeah, this game is, honest to God, is a wallet cruncher, man. It's so painful. I can tell you that if a person starts pushing like champ pieces, I thought champ pieces were bad. Astrolite's worse, but champ pieces are still pretty bad. Like, getting them up to mythic and then doing the astrolite on them is god-awful. Like, the fact that anyone is, you know, and I mean, it really doesn't mean anything until you see it, and then you're like, then when you actually go through the process yourself, then you realize the meaning behind the money, behind, like, somebody that wears that kind of gear. You know, it's like, you look at somebody at a full set of mythic champ gear, and it's like, okay, he's got some money invested. That's pretty hefty. Like, that's 10 grand, right? But then you see full astrolite mythic champ, and you're like, oh shit, that guy's really spent some money. Like, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of energy, even in money. That, you know, makes you kind of like just perfectly regret any financial decision you may have made that at that point in time. We could probably do Tarkus too. To be honest with you, I actually haven't bothered, but yeah, it's been fun playing this game over the years, you know. But I will say that as far as Astrolite is concerned, I would, in my opinion, I would pick out your pieces on that spreadsheet I was referring to. I really highly recommend looking that video up, and you'll find it from Sparty, and it is by far the best resource as far as not only knowing the cost behind the pieces that you want to upgrade, but also the stats and everything associated with them. And you can very quickly get to an answer like that, just based on, you know, how much Astrolite invested to what you get in stats to make your decision. It's a really, really easy way to get to that answer without a whole lot of stress, I think. Now, the only thing that jumps out at me with this team in particular is I don't have a healer, so I'm going to assume I need one. But we're going to see. I could be wrong in thinking that I need Demon Slayer, but consciously or not, that guy always ends up being useful. He just gets himself killed most of the time. Or tries to. But he usually is an asset. But he may end up dying, I don't know. Yeah, see, he like didn't even live long enough for it to matter. Poor bloke didn't even last. Alright, let me go through my messages, because, you know, of course, everybody gave me freaking cheat codes and told me what team to use, like, right from the get-go, but they did it in Spanish. Of course they did. Elementalist, Raven, Little Devil, Dark Follower. Send the powers to the stone monsters that were until the end. So I'm being told right now that I need to use Elementalist. Nice, we're gonna do it according to the people that tell me this is the way things ought to be. So it's Elementalist, and then Night Raven, which would be our buddy old pal Icarus. Whatever the hell Icarus is. Okay, there he is. Okay, and then I need Little Devil, which would be Teat Devil. Little Devil. It's funny, the translator kind of like, you know, just kind of interpreted it. I guess that's not that big of a deal, but okay, and then Dark Follower. Alright, so where's Dark Follower in this list? Then you're somewhere. Dark Follower, where art thou? Dark Follower, where art thou? I know you're in here. Oh, there you are. Okay. Alright, have a good one. Oh, hey, what's up, Reggie? Oh, it's only 7:30? Damn. It's, like 8:18 p.m. here. I'm gonna assume that I just keep this on auto. I don't know if this is an auto team or not, but we're gonna find out. I'm not even gonna, like, touch it or anything. We'll just find out if this is a solid team for autos. I would assume it is, though. Meanwhile, I'm like late to the party. Like, everybody's done this, and here I'm just like now doing it, going, oh yeah, I probably ought to do that. But I don't know. I also don't need Tarkus medals. I don't give a damn about Tarkus, but it's free medals, so I mean, I might as well, right? Yeah. So all the while, I can kind of talk with you guys and get questions and stuff. We can go back and forth. You know, that's the beauty of playing this game, especially after all these years. Just being able to talk to you guys. Just being able to just kind of relax. It's kind of how I like things anyway, personally. The only thing about it is, though, is it seems like, at least with this, it's like, okay, basically, 2 pay-to-win heroes. That's the combination of, you know, it seems to make all the difference. You're gonna have a stun, and a mid-heal, and technically, I think he also increases intelligence, so I can see why Elementalist is in here, because that's intelligence again. So we're really kind of bonusing intelligence a lot. Now, Night Raven's an interesting one, because I have to look and see what the reasoning behind that is, but I would assume that they paired this team in part because of all the magic attack bonuses that you're getting sidetracked with here. I think that's partly why. But again, you know, we're only speculating right now. Okay, so pop a stun. Again, the healer here is really, really critical. I don't know if we're gonna. Maybe. I mean, it's like you gotta really focus down on those rocks in the back. Because I can kind of see why they're the real headache here. Because they're pretty difficult. Wanting to die. I mean, shit. They're literally like almost invincible. God damn. At some point, they ought to eventually die. Well, and then of course the time's gonna run out. God damn it. Here I'm like, oh yes, we need to kill them all. Like, well, not quite. I don't know, do I like kill the other guy? And oh, and then he dies. Ha! Ha ha! Ha, lucky us. I got a question completely wrong. What familiars would you say are optimal for taking mixed rallies on line with 40 million troops? Alright, well, I mean, I think optimally, right? Here's the thing about taking mixed rallies. Mixed rallies in general hurt, okay? Now, if you're gonna be taking them, I think the only logical answer is anything or everything that increases HP, in your case. So, like, for example, you probably are gonna want, like, Hardy Feast, I would think. Depending on how many slots you have access to, I would assume you have all 5. But let's say you don't. Some people might be, like, real quick to jump to a shield. Here's the problem with that mentality, though. You gotta lose 12% before that actually becomes relevant. I'm not a fan of it. Like, if I'm gonna go after something, you're looking at these 10% and 12% bonuses and going, okay, that's not really gonna matter, right? Because by the time it actually is gonna make a difference, it's already long gone. You know, so you don't want to limit yourself with things like Trick Star. You don't want to bother with, you know, any of the 100% boost, attack based, any of that. If anything, I would be more focused on what can I reduce their HP with. Can I get 60% of my HP and attack increase for a set period of time? I'm a big fan of these type of familiars, in part because that 60% HP and attack is a fairly good bonus compared to every other familiar that you can have on that wall. I mean, if it were me, I would stack it kind of like this, but it all depends on what you're getting hit with, too. You know, and how often and how many. You know, so it's like, in a way, you almost kind of need to know what you're going to get hit with. You know, because, like, for example, these familiars, these 600% bonus ones, they're freaking overpowered as hell when you think about it, because that's just going to pop off of whatever the largest squad is. And if, let's say, they're sending blasts, you know, then this works great. Because if let's say, he's sending cavalry, a 600% range blast on cav is going to do a shit ton of damage. Right? But the same thing can also be said for, like, if it was an inf blast, and vice versa. But the thing about these familiars is this is 8% as opposed to 4. So anything that has a very low production value, the problem with the 600s and the 150s is how frequently are you going to find yourself in a situation with a mixed rally where that's actually going to be relevant? You know, because likelihood of you actually, let's say, hitting a 424, right? Well, the best you can hope for in that instance then would be cavalry. In any other instance, this doesn't work as well. Now, if it's an 884, it still doesn't make sense, so Blackwound would be the worst choice. Out of all the choices in mixed rallies defenses, it'd be the worst choice. The closest choice that makes sense to me would be either Gargantua, or you could also just as easily go by and get Bon Appetit, and I think Bon Appetit would be a good choice there too. Because you either end up blasting the shit out of their infantry, or blasting the shit out of their cavalry, or you blast the shit out of their range, depending on whether or not, you know, if they're going 4-2-4, for example, you can block the range out right from the get-go, then all they have left is imp and cav. And so, depending on what their largest squad is, if that ends up being, say, range, then obviously it makes more sense to have Bon Appetit, or in the case of Blackwing, it would make more sense if they're, going full cav. The likelihood of either of those cases, though, is really small, so the only case that could be made, I think, is in Gargantua's favor, because 90% of the time, they're sending infantry in those mixed rallies, as a majority size, most of the time. I don't see too many that are sending, like, shitloads of range and shitloads of cav. I don't see those as often. Not to say they don't exist, but most of the time, that's not the case. So, if anything, I would probably, have Piercing Strike in there. Because that's going to debuff the fuck out of the infantry. And then about the only other thing you could probably tack in there, and this is questionable at best, right? Like, if somebody looks at Vermophobia and goes, oh, that's good. No. It's 15% before it procs, so no, it's not. Now, 10%. Oh, that. No, still. You're 10% into it. Anything that's like 10% plus is not going to be relevant. This one, on the other hand, is probably a fair... There could be an argument made for this one, I think. Like, it's mainly, I think, in part, I could see Turbocharge being a plus. This, I think, would help. I think if you wanted to, you could throw in Deadly Slash, but I'm not thinking that would help all that much. It might, but might be not enough. But beyond that, I mean, shit, I don't know. I mean, as far as familiars are concerned, what else can you really do? If you've got Jade Worm and you had Divine Fire, like I've got on my alt, I haven't tested this, but a lot of people tell me this is a good plus too. And that's one familiar I would throw in there too, because 9% would help a shitload. Especially when, you get procced on a 4% bonus. I think that would be helpful. But again, I haven't tested it myself. It seems like at least at a glance, 9% would be a help. At least cutting down the amount of troops you're losing. That's, anything that helps in that regard is probably not a bad thing. But beyond that, I mean, really, what other choices do you have? It's like you've got Evil Weevil, which is a plus. Aquarius is obviously a big plus, because that's a 15% drop in HP. Now, I think when you're looking at these guys, right, that are doing these mixed rallies, they're literally 1,000 fucking percent into attack, and maybe 1,000% or 800% or so. I was up against one guy, okay, and he literally had 800% in Imp and 800% in Cav, and then his HP was like 600 or so in terms of army HP. Then his main stat was like 400. So he was like popping 1,000% on HP and shit. Take this with a grain of salt. But I look at 15% on a drop and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's gonna help. But, fuck, dude, that's a lot of freaking stats that you gotta cut down. You still got the other 400% that's gonna cause you a whole lot of headache. And you gotta somehow counteract that, And so in some ways I look at it and it's like, shit, what is it exactly can I do? Where 15% versus 40, it's like, okay, I mean, I can kind of see there being more advantages to having like Terra Spike and say like throwing in, Terra Spike, having your Mole Shaman in there maybe even may not be such a bad idea, because you're getting Imp and Imp HP. But the main thing is you think in terms of what is going to counter it. I've seen people, what they'll do is they'll go range phalanx, but what a lot of people don't realize is that it's like, okay, if let's say you go range phalanx in a rally, and it hits a wall, it actually turns into kind of like an imp phalanx in a way, because the infantry's already at the wall, and so then they wind up marching in that direction instead, which is really fucky, but when you look at it, it like makes a lot of sense. I wonder if I can, and this is something when I get a chance, I'll actually compare what we've been doing to mixed rally targets, so people that are trapping get a better idea of what I'm describing here, because I think it's easier to understand when you actually see it, as opposed to like me just telling you, like, because I could tell you just, oh, do this, and do this, but it's a lot, it makes a lot more sense when you actually understand it, it's just, I know at least from my experience, as far as, if I was going to be taking rallies, especially mixed rallies, that you're typically gonna see a lot of people will go into range foul because of the fact that a lot of the time you're gonna find yourself like if you go wedges, right? Any of the wedges are oftentimes having a really hard time because it's like, okay, they have an even amount of just about damn well everything. So having this split up actually does more harm than good. You end up picking a phalanx and sticking to it, and it's either infantry or ranged. Anybody that goes cav will tell you that the problem with that is it takes too fucking long for the infantry to show up. And the range are there, but that doesn't do you a damn lick of good. So then it's just like, well, okay, keep the infantry near the front or close to the front, but don't leave them in the back. Because if you're going to do that, it makes more sense to go cav wedge. Because at least this makes sense. Whereas this situation is maybe the worst situation, because a lot of people look at the infantry as the meat shield that soaks up all the damage, you know? But it's like, realistically, I look at it more like in terms of the unit's speed. And that makes sense. You know, you look at it from the context of what is the speed of the unit itself in relation to the army as it's marching. And then from there, you can practically speak, you know, how to counteract it. You know, but either way, like my main account right now, I've got 38 million troops now. Don't have hardly any T5, but I've got 3.6 mil across, and then 8 mil T2 across. Now, this to me is a fairly decent composition to take rallies in, if I had to. The only thing that steps out of the boundary of, like, you know, why this is obviously not a trap as opposed to, like, somebody that's, you know, 25 to 26 million troop comp with 400 to 500 mil might. It's just a different way of playing it. You know, there's been a lot of conversations that people are having over, like, well, I should just build T5s and not have T4s. It's like, you can. There's not anything wrong with that. It's just, me personally, I hate the Lunite cost. So if that ever dips into your units, you're going to be paying a fuck ton more than somebody that's got T4, because you can't get Lunite any other way than through money. So if you're not, you know, spending, you're not going to find that to be a very fun option, in my opinion. But yeah, like a 10.5.5, yeah. I mean, you can very easily soak inf on that, and that's probably the best way to handle it. Although, you know, it's at the same time, right? I think the one thing that a lot of people are beginning to forget is that, like a lot of mixed rallies, you don't cap most of the time. And when you can cap, then you're in a good place. But most of the people that are struggling, I think, the issue is the fact that you need a lot of troops, you need a lot of might, and in order to might counteract, that means you've got to be like close to 1 billion most of the time. Let's say you're not. Let's say you're 600 or 700 mil. You're still a fat target compared to a lot of these smaller accounts. So it doesn't work in your favor. They know what they're up against a lot of the time. When they go up against somebody that's 700-800 mil, they just go, okay, whatever, guys, let's just swing it and hit for whatever we get. And mixed rallies, you know, it's up and down. But the biggest crusade, I think, a large part of it is coming from the fact that it's like, if I can go a blast rally on somebody, right? And I'm popping 767 right now on my cap stats. But let's say I get another 10, 200, you know, 300%. That guy, if I can get 1,000 in here and 1,000 in another stat, and then smack the guy, that's just stupid how much damage that does. Because now he can't really just, you know, he can't, like, even if he's in mixed, he doesn't have those kind of mixed stats. Like, you find yourself almost needing the same kind of gear to be able to compete with that. The same kind of astrolate. And this is the thing that I think is, you know, it's going in a trajectory that people are not liking as much, which is that you got to keep up with the Jonases in order to actually be able to trap anymore. Like, you get up to somebody that's in the 40 mil troop might range, but doesn't have the gear, the stats to hold it up, and they'll find themselves either not capping or they take too many reds, and it just winds up being more of a pitiful waste for them than it is for the people that are actually sending the mixed rally. Because again, the one thing about mixed rallies is it's divvied up across 10 people. You know, a lot of people forget this, but the individual loss for each person is maybe 100,000, maximum 200,000. So the loss intake per person is nowhere near significant when you're losing upwards of 5 to 6 million. You know, and that's what's at stake, is 5 or 6 million T2. You know, that's the main thing. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there are people that, you know, they follow the bot like it's gospel. I mean, it's out there, you know. But even if people are following a bot like it's their religion, and that's you know, that tells them what to do and how to hit, I'm still a firm believer that a lot of that comes down to that. You know, you almost have to win a war of attrition with them when you're trapping like that. Especially if you're rally party trapping, which at 40 million, that's almost party trap might. Where you're starting to, you know, you're trying to play a game of attrition with somebody. And then it's just a wallet war from that point forward. It's just, how many more rallies can you give me? And how many can I continue to eat until you finally give in? You know, because then it's just a game of playing tap out. The one thing I would say that a lot of traps oftentimes misunderestimate is really just the resources that you need. Is you take a bunch of rallies and you're going to burn like 250 mil in a hurry. You know, so if you don't have at least a few billion in bags, you're going to struggle harshly fast. And in a way that, you know, you don't realize until really later. Like you'll go through so many rallies and then you'll be hurting for resources. And unfortunately in this game, it's not fun to be on the other end of that. So usually a lot of people will turn to the black market, or they'll go in any direction that they can get resources in. You know, some people are like, yes, I gather every day and I have billions. It's like, okay. And you can do that, you know. There are just as many people that are like, well, I just bought a bot and had the bot do it all day. That's what I do. It's like, okay, whatever. You know, but all the while, I'm just kind of casually sitting here just like, I don't know what to make heads or tails of, really, man. It's just, some people I think are a little too invested sometimes, though. You got people operating like 15 accounts these days. It's like, Jesus, crazy. Like, you couldn't stop at 1, couldn't stop at 2. Now you had to have fucking 15 of them. Now have, fucking 5 accounts for every resource twice over. All the while, it's just like, there are some people that, they manage on 1 account, and that's their little freedom in life. Now, I don't know about you, but like, so for example, like Don Corleone, for example, I know took a ton of rallies. And he's eaten quite a few here recently. And I look at the guy, his comp is okay. He's got 665 million kills, 43 billion might destroyed. And he's got a fair amount of resources. And he's got a fairly okay looking KD going for himself. 14,700 failed attacks. So he doesn't seem to make many mistakes. The thing about it is, though, and this is often the truth with a lot of people, I feel like, is that you wind up getting in a game of tit for tat where you go back and forth with somebody like that. And the thing about it is I look back to like gryphon trapping and solo trapping and rally trapping and even like garrison trapping even. And that shit, I still cannot highly recommend. I mean, it's dangerous as hell, but I loved garrison trapping for a number of reasons. And I still don't see anybody do it these days. I was probably the only person that did it for like a straight year, and I'm still surprised people don't do it more often. And I think it's fun because, where solo trapping involves having to have like the troop might and getting someone to solo and all this shit, like, I don't have to try. I just throw resources on some account, and it can be any account. It doesn't matter what might it is. Put like 1 billion on it, right? And then everybody's gonna go, oh, resources. And it's just like, watch the plague, man. It like doesn't take but 5, maybe 10 minutes before you got a whole goddamn crowd soloing that son of a gun for resources. And you can almost expect that they're all sending infantry. So it's like, oh, I'll just send Cav and pull, and it's like, there, I just killed 200,000 on 1 account 3 times in a row, and their infirms either completely full or they just lost 400,000. You know, and you're killing so many T4 that compared to a rally, the individual pain is so much worse. It's collectively more the morality or even the what do you call the fighting spirit that people have, right? The pride, the ego that they would have. It fucking sinks to the ground when they lose that much in one sitting. Because then they get, you know, all sorts of duped, and they're, you know, it's a shitty feeling to have lost more than 500,000 T4 in a matter of seconds. You know, especially when you involuntarily thought you were just getting yourself millions of resources to heal. It's like, well, yeah, at first, but then you get pulled for 600k. It's like, okay, sure, you took 10, 20 million, sure. Okay, you get your 10, 20 mil to build troops back with, but you just lost 100 million in troops. You know, it's like, the trade there is so much, it's so much fun to watch that. But, I don't know, I mean, that Garrison Trap series I did was an enjoyable thing to do, but I honestly think I'd do it again. And still probably rack up kills that way. I used to screw around with it, and the thing is people they'd go, oh, okay, well, if he's gonna send cavalry, every time I'm sending infantry, I'll just throw in range, no? Trap him. Like, yeah, well, joke's on you if I send infantry. Like, I used to do that, and then I would, I remember when the Emperor would, I think it was SK Urju back in the day. I was screwing with Sky back then, and that was funnier than hell, because I've got an imp account sending fucking solos and getting triggered because I was sitting there capping his fucking solos, because he'd send cab, and I'd proceed to send range, and he's like, what the shit? How the hell am I supposed to trap when I don't even... I mean, I'm playing at a losing game here, because if I can see what's getting sent, and I can send the counter and then random, you are SOL. Because there's only two outcomes that can come from that. I can either speed the march into the castle, or if you accidentally send it right after I've sent it, then you're SOL. You know, it's like, it makes it a stupidly painless process, right? But one thing I can recommend, Connor, that a lot of people, I think, don't do, that they probably should do, when they're trapping, is they actually need to set up keybinds. This is something that I've only talked about a few times with people, but if you use, like, BlueStacks, for example, let me see if I can show you what I'm referring to here. I'll just go ahead and I'll just, like, show you what I mean. Okay, so, like, for example, alright, what I'm referring to is the macro manager, and literally I just have all my gear set up with a button, and all I gotta do is hit that button. I'm already in that gear. So, like, for example, alright, if I press end, it literally swaps to gear. I don't have to, like, you know, sit here and go, oh, okay, I gotta click. No, I just hit a button. And the difference in a button is milliseconds, as opposed to, like, a second of fear of forgetting. You know, I can press 1, boom, swap gear. Press 2, boom, I'm in this. You know, and you can also do it for phalanxes too. So, like, for example, 4, okay, I'm in, you know, freaking, you know, imp wedge. Okay, I can press 5, and in an instant, I'm in range wedge. If I press 7, I'm immediately in imp phalanx. If I press 8, I'm in range phalanx. And if I press 9, it basically, all it does is it goes down here, clicks on this, and believe it or not, every time you click on guild coins, your random relocator button's right there. So then if I hit 9, it randoms. And I can do that, like, within 3 seconds, 4 seconds, tops. So by the time that rally marches, I'm faster than the carpets that they can burn on me by the time I'm both in the right counter and in gear. But it's the only practical way these days, I feel like, outside of maybe using a phone. A phone's pretty quick if you're tapping on your screen, sometimes. But if you're on PC, that is like, that's the meta as far as trapping people goes. Because it's not even close to what, you know, I mean, as far as what's possible. It's so much easier to do it that way. But, you know, I bring that up because I don't nobody really talks about that, but I think it's a fucking time saver. It's not that, you know, oh, I don't know, IGG will probably go, oh, you get fucking these macros. Like, oh, yeah, well, fucking tell me that again when you compare, like, the tens of thousands of bot users that are fucking going around, and they look at castles that are inactive and waiting for their shield to pop, Like, if that shit's gonna be the standard rule of fucking law here, and we're not gonna ban it, then what the fuck is the difference? Nothing, you know? It's like, if people are gonna play shitty, then you might as well either join them or, you know, find a way to counteract it. That's my solution to that problem. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't really care at this point. It's a game, you know, it's just inevitable that, you know, it's gonna be in that direction. It's just, I don't know. Person could be negative about it, I guess, but kind of hard to, like, not be. I think I still have some entries left, so we're gonna go ahead and pop those. There we go. And another 10 entries. Gonna keep going down. Work our way through. See if we can get to 1. There's one nice thing about having Don Guapo, though. It makes it pretty brainless. Until I meet Boommeister. And then I go, oh shit. Every time I see Boommeister, it's a problem. Thankfully, that wasn't a good enough Boommeister, so pretty easy. But yeah, it doesn't last, it seems like, after that. So far, as you can kind of see, it's like not taking me a lot of effort. Get to number 1. And it doesn't cost any gems either, which is nice. Aw, man. Shouldn't have failed. Why did that fail? Oh well. Oh, this is Songstress. That's just a good. I can win this. There's Songstress in there. That's a good. Easy peasy. Oh, let's see if we can kick him out. We might not be able to. I might have to use my other team. Okay, we gotta use the other team to kick him out. The other team that I'm referring to is you throw in big guy, and then it's this thing. My memory. It could be shit. I could be wrong. But yeah, Don Guapo and big guy just like they don't play well for some reason. I'm not really sure what the reasoning behind this is, to be honest, but and then this is a jolly good team right here. Goddamn Magma Ride. I'm gonna watch this pan out because this is a team I'm probably not gonna win against. Just shy of almost, but not enough. I could probably change that up though. I'm gonna try it one more time because I want to be disturbed at this, at his own game. So instead of, so he's already got a petite. Well, let's try and just knock it with a Demon Slayer. See if I can kill. I think I can. I think I can. Yeah. I think I can. Demon Slayer just needs to kill. Damn it, Demon Slayer, you failed me. Growth Guardian screwed me. That's not gonna work. So, okay, so we can't do it that way. Thus, we're in a situation where he has back lane coverage, he has front lane damage, but no way to counteract back line. You know, here's a thought. What if did Don Guapo and then we sugar-coated that with something like, oh, I don't know, fucking Trickster maybe? It's an idea for a thought. Let's see what comes of that. Ah, nothing. God damn. Hey, what's up, Beth? Okay, well, no dice. Let's just try one more for the shits and gigs here. Death Knight. Death Knight. Right now. blind? I'm blind. Go right there. Huh. And then, something that can shred. Let's try this. Seems pretty goddamn formidable, to say the least. Because you really can't muscle it. You can't backline it that easily. So, does that mean I need to use, like, Dark Follower? And then maybe, Center Enemy? If I just go Heavy Magic? These guys here are kind of not really heavy magic. The only thing that's... Well, technically, yes. The answer is either really heavy magic or really heavy physical DPS drops. See, I'm thinking if I have Death Knight soak up all this damage here. And maybe... Maybe. Big maybe. Yeah, no. That just doesn't work because even though Death Knight takes all that damage, you can't keep him alive to save your soul by the time it's relevant. So, unless maybe I did something that improved that, which would be... Well, I could do... That's an idea, because I could stun him. I was noticing that with big guys. I could stun him. And then I can throw in like someone like Snow Queen. I'll try that. And the only reason I think that'll work is I might be able to get away with doing recharge Snow Queen. It's just not gonna work. I need a quicker mid-heal. These guys are not it. That mid-heal could be... Well, I could always try the other idea, which involves just using yeah, come to think of it, they got a lot of heroes that drop magic attack, but not very many heroes that drop for physical damage very much. Something tells me those are the future heroes. At least I don't have them in my rotation, that is, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that Rogue Guardian and a couple of others probably fit the bill, but I'm gonna throw in some like oddballs here and just try it. Because I forget what Chronic Raven does. There's like only one way to find out. I'm trying to get a team like this together anyway. It's just to try it and see what the hell happens. You know, in a weird way, that almost worked. It just needed DPS. Like if I threw a tracker in, maybe? Alternatively, if I didn't use Rose Knight, I did someone like, Dream Witch, maybe? Or I could throw in a mid-heal like C-Square, but that's not... I want like something that will drop these magic, so something would drop base damage, which very many things that do that, but try doing a combination like I don't know. I really like Scarlet Bolt so much in this instance. I want to believe I could use like I've never used Barbarian in this context, but I want to know if this works. Boy has 0 health. Gets his ulti off. That's nice. Just barely. Maybe, I don't know. Got rid of their healer at least. This is weird. It actually worked. Maybe not, I don't know. Okay, I was gonna say, I'm like, boy. I just barely won, too. Barbarian for the win. Right. Right. First guild fest. Alright, I think that's pretty much it, I mean, for the most part. That's really kind of all I wanted to show, was just kind of talk about, you know, just my main account a little bit, kind of show the might off, and main thing being is my alt's finally at a point where now you can really see. As far as the teams go, I guess. At the rookie ones with the Paris, he says. Main thing though, it's Rose Knight, Tracker, Night Raven, and Shade for autoplay. Stage 2, it's Death Knight, Rose Knight, Prima Donna, Incinerator on autoplay. And then for Stage 3, it's Rose Knight, Prima Donna, Tracker, Incinerator on autoplay. And for Stage 4, it's Incinerator, Prima Donna, Rose Knight, Tracker, and autoplay. And the last is not yet discovered, but we'll know here in 3 hours. But in case you were wondering how to do the 4 stages, those are the teams you need for the 4 stages. But needless to say, that's the stream for the day. Make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.